arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Rachel.
I'm Vicky.
Oh my God. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Yay.
Welcome back.
We're here.
We're coming off of, I know this is a couple episodes ago, but we're coming off of our 200th extravaganza.
I just listened to the first part. I thought it was great.
Yes. It was a lot of fun.
You should go listen to it right now.
Yes. Parts 1 and 2 will be up.
Yeah. We'll be
at this
here.
point. But we're back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes.
Again.
Nothing regular about it.
As always. How are you today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Doing okay. I'm happy that it's warmer.
Outside. Yeah. We've officially, I think, made it through what we call, what is it called? Fake spring.
Yeah,
it's called
full spring.
Full spring.
Yep.
Yes.
Finally.
We've just made it through full spring, which is a thing here in the Midwest where it's like fake out spring and then it becomes winter again for another couple weeks and then it's spring.
Awful.
Actually, real spring.
It's so mean.
It is super mean because all I want to do is plant my plants, plant my herbs on my little...
I just want to tan these little white hot dogs I call legs.
Yeah, I know. My mom literally told me I was pale the other day, and I was like, "Thanks, Mom."
Wow. Okay.
We went to get our toes done, and I have this very yellow. I was the last time we recorded, I think. The yellow toenail polish. And she's like, maybe if you weren't so pale, it would look really good. Because it's supposed to make you look really tan. But right now, it just makes you look really pale. And I was like, damn, I know you're right.
Thanks, Mom.
Because I don't go outside, but it still hurts. Even the woman painting my toes was like, oh, you want this color?
Wow. No, don't judge me, lady.
I've been going there long enough that they're allowed to judge me. But I was like, what, you don't like it? She was like, no, it's great. And I'm like, I know you don't like it. It's fine. It's fine. She's like, no, in a couple of weeks, it'd be really, really good. And I was like, thanks, dude.
It looks really good on your vampiric complexion.
Listen. Might as well highlight that I never go outside.
Yeah, really.
Oh, man. All right. Before we get into it, we're going to head over to the newsroom.
Yeah, let's head over there.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
Let me ask you a question. As a mom.
I do. Okay, what?
Imagine for a second, you're taking an Uber.
Uh-huh.
You are taking Uber from the airport home after a long trip.
Okay. With my kids?
With your kids, whole family.
I'm already stressed. Okay,
You get home.
I'm sweating.
You unpack the car. You unpack the kids. But then you realize you have a kid missing.
What?
You think, I was just going back to get my other child, but now the car's gone.
No. You do the kids first.
What would you do?
I just wouldn't be in that situation. So I put one kid under one arm, one kid under the other arm.
I know. So this is what happened to a mom in Canada.
Oh my God.
They had gone to a Toronto's Raptor game.
Okay.
With her boyfriend and her kids. And they had driven. They got a flat tire, so they had to take an Uber back. She has a couple of kids, some with car seats and things.
Yeah.
And a 5-year-old daughter that fell asleep in the back of the car on the way home. So they talked about a plan. She was like, she's going to grab the garage door opener from the other car so she can open while her boyfriend started getting everybody out of the car seats and all of this stuff. And then she would go back, and because she didn't want to wake her daughter up, she would go back and carry the 5-year-old back inside as the other boyfriend took the other kids inside.
Totally
and the car seats, whatever. Like it's this kind of,
Oh, poor
So they're in the middle of this process because it is a lot to get out.
Yeah.
And she goes back to the car to get her 5-year-old and realizes that the Uber car is gone.
Oh my God.
So she calls the police, and police are like, calling. Okay. So she calls the police. The police get there. Police call Uber and is like, can you give us the information of this driver? Because this is what's happening.
Right.
And Uber is like, ooh, there's a form that you need to fill out.
They're terrible. This kind of thing has happened to Uber before where they haven't helped in police investigations.
Yeah. And I understand getting the proper channels for requests during an investigation.
Yeah, completely.
But when it's this kind of emergency where it's like, we need this information
There's a
right now.
missing child.
This is actively happening.
Right.
To be like, well, there's a form that you need to fill out in order for us, and then we'll put it up the chain of command, and like
they should know that she was in the car. Like Uber would be able to check and be like,
Yeah.
obviously she's not making this up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Uber's guidelines say that there's an emergency disclosure request that has to be submitted through the company's public safety response portal or by an email. Luckily, they did. I mean, Toronto police were like, we got absolutely no help from Uber, but luckily they were able to find the driver. The driver, to their part, was like, I had no idea because it's
sleeping kid.
It sounds like it was a one of those vans that has like multiple rows, and the daughter was asleep in the very back row.
So couldn't even see her.
Yeah. So they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't even realialize she was back. She was asleep. Like, I didn't even realize who, which I would be, if I was that person, I would be freaking out.
Right. I'm sure they were.
They're like, I hope I'm not in trouble. Like, I didn't. Yeah, exactly. Cause that's like,
oh, it just sounds like a big misunderstanding, but like so stressful for everybody involved, except the damn kid who's sleeping the whole time.
Don't worry, because Uber gave them a $10 credit.
Stop it right now.
Yeah.
You better give me the car.
Yeah.
You better give me your company.
Yeah. They say they're like reviewing this incident internally.
You can review these nuts internally.
Yeah. But like,
you're getting sued with a capital S.
Yeah. And they're seeing like, we told this person to contact police. And that when the police called, they said, well, here's the process for an expedited request. But like, I don't know. There's
anything other than, oh my God, okay, here's the phone number of the person who drives the car. And here's the location.
Here's the license plate. Well, and this is an interesting thing to me is because when you get an Uber, you get the car's license plate number as you're waiting. So as a way to verify that the car that you're getting into is the correct car.
Right. Because do I know what a Toyota Corolla is? No, I do not.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, is that an SUV or a sedan? I don't know the difference. No.
And I'm even worse.
Yeah.
I truly don't.
Yeah.
What is the difference? I don't know.
Are they picking me up in a semi? I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Is this a limousine?
Yeah. No. So that is a thing, but I don't know that you can like, after your ride is completed, if you can go back in and
like
see it.
Screenshot it, which why would they think to do that?
Right.
Oh my God, that's so stressful.
Because surely Uber will help.
Right, you would think it would be super easy. They'd just be like, oh, here, we'll call the driver and tell them to come back. Bring that kid back now.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh my God, can you fill this out in triplicate? Thank you so much.
So that happened.
Fuck Uber.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Side effect to like ride sharing. Like I said, it was not on purpose. Like it wasn't.
No, I'm not mad at the driver.
But also that's how easily somebody can be like, well, now I'm going to take your kid.
Yep.
But I don't know why you would do that as an Uber driver because Uber has all of your information. So
right.
Like,
I was going to say like this kind of roadblock is like whatever. Even if they had to fill out the form, it probably wouldn't have taken that long.
Right.
They would catch you, girl.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to Netflix and kill.
Yes.
This week we are talking about Bad Influence, the dark side of kidfluencing.
Yes.
Have you watched this yet, or you just seen the trailers?
I think it would probably be a little tough for me to watch. To be honest,
it really
with you.
would be.
Yeah.
So it's.
I don't do well with
wild.
like kid stuff.
Yeah.
I would be so mad.
Yeah. So it's a 3-part series. It sort of the main thrust of the story focuses on the child YouTuber Piper Raquel, who now is a teen, and her mom manager,
disgusting,
Tiffany Smith. Piper Raquel sort of got on YouTube and really like took off with these videos, and her mom began managing her career and filming the videos for her. And then they started recruiting people to come do videos with them.
Like a pimp.
Yeah, kind of. But these are all, I mean, this is not me justifying it, but a lot of them were kids who were like going to LA to like try to make it big and get into acting.
It probably seemed like a great opportunity.
Yeah. And then quickly, like they recruited these people into this group they called The Squad. And if you're not familiar with the world of influencing and kidfluencing, it's a really weird landscape from
Very
like
strange.
the internet that we grew up with, right?
Agree.
And our shit was weird.
Very weird.
But like it's a very strange thing because it's very specific types of videos.
Yeah.
There's trends that these kidfluencers follow. They talk about, what is the term that they use? I want to say coupling, but it's not coupling. There's like a hipper term for it.
For what?
For essentially creating fake couples, fake relationships between the
like
cast
shipping?
members. Shipping. That's what it
That's
is.
it,
I
yep.
was like, I've never heard that term in my life, but that's crazy.
It's like a fan fiction.
Yeah, shipping.
Yeah.
They call this thing shipping, where they create
'Cause
these fake relationships
Yep.
between two kids, and then it'll be like, in this case, started out very innocently, and then there was some kind of, behind the scenes, things were very abusive, very demanding, because they're YouTube kidfluencers.
Mm-hmm.
They are not subject to child acting laws
Which
and
is
child labor laws.
crazy.
So they're able to get away with forcing the kids to work long hours, not take breaks. They were doing quote unquote homeschooling.
Yep.
So like the school requirement is not there. All of these things that are.
And they don't see their money that they work for.
No. There's also this aspect of them controlling the individual YouTube channels, which is a revenue stream, but they're like under the control of the central person. There's also allegations of sexual abuse with more than one of the squad, the people
pisses me off
involved.
so much.
Yeah. It's just, and these parents, I genuinely feel like are trying to do the right thing for their kid, and they see this person being popular on YouTube, and it is a new landscape. Like, it is kind of for parents who are our age, maybe a little older.
Yeah.
It's a little different than like when we were.
Very much so.
So I can understand the intent being there, and then getting in and realizing like a lot of them got in and they were like, no, this is really fucked up.
Yeah.
There was a civil lawsuit, a multi-party lawsuit with these allegations of child abuse and sexual abuse, and so I think there were some labor things in there, and that is, I believe, still currently working its way through the courts.
Okay,
but you're talking about somebody who is making like at their peak $500,000 a month.
That's crazy.
A month. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah, that's gross.
It's hard to watch because it is like very much performative. These are like forcing these kids in very specific directions to do, it feels really icky.
Super icky.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with this sort of world,
it's a trip.
I think you should watch this because I do think people need to be aware of this.
Absolutely.
I am happy to say that here in Illinois, we do have better deals for
That's good.
kid influencers.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just last year, the year before, I think it was last year, they passed the law where if your child provides you 30% of your income, you're required to set aside like 15% of that specifically. Or half of that, I think.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm thinking 15 is half of 30, which it is. But yeah, you have to set aside a certain amount of that into like a trust for them if they're under the age of 18.
Good.
So they are required, like if your parents are doing this or whatever, like they're required to set money aside. Now,
right.
Do we have like, we do have labor laws, but like, I don't know how many acting laws and stuff that we have because we're not like a big acting hub. Chicago maybe, but even still, most people are going to New York or LA.
Right.
That's where the scene is. So anyway, interesting documentary.
Very interesting.
Does make you feel a little gross.
Yeah, anything where you put responsibility on a child is like immediately no.
Yeah, and this is also why a lot of parents too have made the decision to like not share their kids on social media at all. Which I totally get.
I do too.
Or like if they do, it's like a blurred face or back of the head or whatever. It's very much not monetizing. But that's also like an identity thing. Right. Because there was talk in this documentary about like random men on the internet.
Yeah. Lots of creeps.
Sending them gifts and things to this young girl who she started, honestly, it was like she was like 6 or 7 or 8. And now she's a teenager. But like
Well, there's certain things like I know on TikTok in particular, you can check and see like what your demographics are, like who watches your videos, like women, men, ages. And there are so many of these like child accounts that seem so innocent, but then they'll be followed by like 80% like middle-aged men. And I'm like, no.
It is this sort of back door into like child pornography.
Right.
And especially in this case, they, as she got older and into more teenage look, more post-puberty look.
Yeah.
They intentionally made it more sexy and made it more alluring.
Disgusting.
And you want to stick your butt out and your boobs out and do because this is the content that they want. Playing to these fucking old men
That's
or
pornography.
child predators. Maybe not. Maybe it's old women too. Who I'm not going to discriminate.
I am.
But I mean, the boys do it too.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like fucking child predators out there just like, I don't know. That's crazy.
It's so
to me.
gross. It's such a weird situation to involve your child in.
Yeah. So this is on Netflix. It's called Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kidfluencing. It's an interesting watch.
Yeah.
I would recommend it, but just like
be careful.
Be careful because it's pretty shocking.
It's gonna make you feel skeevy.
It is gonna make you feel skeevy. This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners. This week there will definitely be discussions of murder. I've got some I think I might have some suicide talk. There is a lot in I had to give my full disclosure. We like adjusted our recording schedule. So this was actually something that I had researched a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Remember? Because this was the one that we were.
Oh yeah. Wait. So did I.
I'm like, you did the same thing too. So I had to look at my notes to refresh my memory. Like,
I did
what the
too.
fuck did I write about? And this one is all over the place as far as content. So just a general content.
Mine too.
Warning.
Mine's got some blood and guts and some penis.
But what are we talking about today, Rachel?
Well, I thought I'd cast a wide net, but also something near and dear to my heart, which is evil women.
Yeah, I think when you messaged me first, you said deranged women.
Deranged.
Just in time for Mother's Day.
Right. Being an evil and dastardly woman myself.
Yeah,
I was like,
I feel it in my soul.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah. And let's be real, there's plenty of female criminals out there to choose from.
Yup, they're
normally
is.
way more creative.
Yeah, completely.
Just saying.
Completely. Completely. Who run the world?
It's girls.
Yeah, I think something in our like cultural psyche is eternally fascinated with women who kill.
Yeah.
It's like such a thing because it's like, well, ladies don't do
right.
that.
They're too dainty.
Too demure.
Too mindful. Yeah. No, it is a thing though. And a lot of it stems from just like the physicality of it too, where it's like, there's no possible way they could drag a body. They couldn't even pick up a cup of coffee.
Right.
Like,
I've seen so many cases where it's like the woman clearly did it. And the police will get stuck on that. Like, well, how did she drag the body? And I'm like,
she just fucking did it.
I'm
she
like,
dragged
she's in
it.
sports.
Yeah.
Like, she just did it.
Yeah. She probably did it in heels too.
Right.
Don't be mad.
Love it.
Yeah.
I know it pisses me off, but it very much goes against our like cultural norms to be like, wait, women can be like violent, and like horrible. And I do think that most of the time when you see like a woman killer, it tends to be linked more with like crimes of passion than with like they're not going to go out and like shoot someplace up. You know, it tends to be like, oh, my husband did something terrible, so I'm going to kill him, or my children annoy me, so I'm going to drown them.
Yeah,
it's more emotionally involved. That's the stereotype.
Yeah. Oh, the stereotype. Yes.
I mean, in general, that's what we tend to expect to see.
Yeah. I will say too, a large majority of maybe not as much modern day, but especially like 1800s, early 1900s, was much more subtle. Like it wasn't women, like you said, we're not running out and like shooting someplace up.
Right.
But it was a little bit more subtle, quiet,
yeah.
like not as obvious all the time.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Demure.
Demure.
Mindful. Well, my pick today, Sara Maria, is neither mindful nor demure and certainly not cutesy.
What's her name?
Sara Maria.
Sara Maria. Okay.
Apologies for my very white voice. She was a villainous cult leader, referred to as the godmother inside the cult, along with her lover, the creator and co-head of the cult, Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo.
Oh, he's got Jesus in the name.
Yeah, but he's also got Adolfo.
I mean, we're just going to skim past that part.
But she didn't start out that way.
Okay.
In fact, Sarah was described as having had a fairly normal upbringing for the most part. Born Sara Maria Aldrete Villarreal on September 6th, 1964 in Matamoros, so sorry in advance, Tamaulipas, Mexico, which is near the border of the U.S.
Okay.
No spooky or culty activity was reported in her childhood, unless you count cheerleading, which I do.
I was a cheerleader.
I know.
It's not spooky.
You guys probably would have been pals. Standing 6'1". She was a tall girl too.
That's how tall I am.
Yes.
Listen, 6'1" girls make for really good bases.
Yeah, very much.
Just saying.
Launch and hose.
Yes.
Into the stratosphere.
Catching people, and I dropped people I didn't like.
Totally freaked me out.
Great.
I mean, right on. Taurus, sure, number one. Yeah, tall and pretty. Sarah did well at everything she tried. She was athletic, again, cheerfully cheering for the soccer team. She had plans to eventually pursue a physical education degree to pass on her love of athletics to the younger generation.
Okay.
But Sarah had a secret. To us, it might not sound so strange, as I'm sure we had similar interests. But Sarah was a bit of a freaky gal. She became obsessed with studying the occult.
Yeah.
Which she would do in between.
You basically just described my high school experience.
Right. I'm like, oh.
It's like doing this. A sports girl by day, a cult by night.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But the problem came in, not because, obviously you can read weird stuff and not be a fucking murderer. You can have that interest and not be evil.
Right. Right.
But I think the problem became with who she was hanging out with.
Okay.
And she started getting involved with this family, members of this family, the Hernandez family, who may not have matched her squeaky clean exterior. They were all gang related. They were all cartel related.
Okay.
And were involved in crimes from petty theft to shipping drugs across the border, all the way to murder.
Okay.
And far from this scaring her, she was like,
ooh, but it's kind of sexy.
Yeah. It's like, yum.
Ooh, look at that exciting lifestyle.
She's kind of like Lana Del Rey.
I'm
She's
scared.
like, oh, are you in the mafia?
But intrigued.
Yum.
Yeah.
Knowing this family and their criminal activities fascinated Sarah. But that wasn't the only thing that caught her eye. No, it was the well-manicured mullet of Adolfo de Jesus de Constanzo, who the Hernandez brothers introduced her to. He was tall, dark, and handsome, and the two quickly fell in love.
I am hard anti-mullet.
Yeah,
I hate it. Is an unacceptable hairstyle, and I refuse to believe anybody that's like, we should bring the mullet back. Absolutely not. It is the worst hairstyle on the face of planet Earth.
I disagree.
I
but
hate
that's
it.
okay.
I hate a mullet.
That's one of those where I understand why people feel
Yeah,
that way.
it's gross.
I think they look good on some people.
Nope.
I do.
No,
I really
it literally looks bad on every single person that tries it. It's horrible.
This is the anti-mullet podcast.
I will never support a mullet. If you do a mullet, which I'm pretty sure you have in the past, I politely said nothing.
You did.
I said nothing.
Very
if you asked me how your hair was, I probably said,
yeah, it's green.
It's hair.
It's sure. it's on your head.
It's hair, and it's there.
It's hair, and it's there.
It's gross, though.
It's hair, and it's
Ask me what my second least favorite is.
What is it?
Man bun.
Wow.
Top knot.
We disagree.
I don't like long hair. Truthfully, on men,
I love it.
No, I don't.
Wow.
It's gross. I barely like long hair on me. To be honest with you, I just am not a big hair person. But yeah, no,
Oh
that's
my God. You hear that? If you have long hair, cut it off.
Yeah, cut it off and we're in business.
Or you can't listen to our
Yeah.
podcast anymore. Yeah. You have to go home. Turn off
no
your
long
computer.
hair for me. Thank you.
Please. So, Sarah's kind of going down this like kind of dark path. And I feel like with a lot of these cases with these young girls, it's like a boy can either like make you or break you. If they're going to be really good, maybe she would have stayed on the straight and narrow. And if they're going to be really bad, maybe she goes really bad. Adolfo was really bad.
Whoa, didn't see that coming.
Really bad.
Yeah.
So he had this like crazy childhood, super disorganized, moving from place to place. Mother had a lot of boyfriends. He experienced a lot of abuse. And from a young age, he started to be interested in like Santeria and brujeria.
I was waiting for that to come up because that's very like Santeria in Mexico is like absolutely fucking
Santeria.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, it's very taboo, very frowned upon.
Yeah.
Especially in a place where religion in general is pretty conservative.
Absolutely.
Like way on the conservative end.
Such like a dichotomy.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there's this like evil little underground.
Yeah.
In between all these like pretty little churches. It's like evil.
Yeah.
Very scary. But it's also taken, like when you're in it, it's taken very seriously.
Yeah.
It's like everyone kind of believes in it seems.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like in like English, like white society, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't believe in like witchcraft and ghosts and stuff. But in that sort of society, it's like, oh no, I believe in it. I'm just not messing with it.
Right.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
Very understandable.
Accurate.
Because some of the stuff is gross.
Yeah.
But they took it seriously enough that cartels will hire like magic people to like, do spells and stuff for them. They worship certain deities who are supposed to protect them in their sort of criminal enterprises. And as Adolfo grew up, that he was like, that's the job for me. He's like, I was there at the job fair that day. That's going to be my job.
I mean, I kind of love that because even if they're not like a full belief in that, it's like, well, just in case, as an insurance policy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay.
Just in case.
We're about to go to this big thing.
Yeah.
Just have our magic man burn a couple bay leaves.
Just in case. just to be sure.
So he actually was able to run with a couple of his friends / followers, cronies, a very profitable business making magic for these cartels.
How interesting.
Right. And that's still a thing today.
He found a need and he filled it.
Which I love.
Yeah.
And you know what? You do what you love. You don't work a day in your life.
Right.
And Adolfo loved killing animals. I forgot I forgot to trigger warning this.
This is what I mean. There's so much.
This is a crazy case.
Yeah.
This case is crazy. He would sacrifice, like a lot of like Santeria and hoodoo, I'm not trying to generalize, but a lot of those kinds of religions heavily involve animal sacrifice.
Right.
So he would sacrifice goats, chickens, and then the cartels with their pull would pull in like exotic animals.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
There was a really sad thing where like he sacrificed like a lion cub that they like shipped from like Africa or whatever. Is that crazy?
Wild.
His clients were like hitmen and rich like drug dealers and cartel, and certain members of the cartel, as we discussed, were probably religious and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're doing that over there. I'm going to just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. But some of these like rich, crazy people were like, ooh, that's like sexy and fun. And they made it more of a performance, which fed into Adolfo's burgeoning ego.
Oh, geez.
It's like, oh, does anybody else have a boner?
Yeah.
Just me and the lion cub?
Okay.
So some of these like evil, creepy occult parties would even attract corrupt politicians and corrupt policemen.
Of course.
Absolutely. And that's how he got involved with this is a big cartel, the Gulf cartel.
Okay.
So he was just like doing super good, lucrative finances.
Wow.
Killing animals.
Wow.
He's like, bada bing.
Bada bing,
and
bada boom.
all of his spells were said to work. All of these cartels reported massive success. So he was like, they were like, hey, use my magic man for his magic and you will get money and drugs. Hooray. So he was like, hell yeah. Take my business card.
Yeah.
The trouble started. So animal sacrifice, yes. And then a lot of these spells use like bones.
Right.
So he's like, okay, no problem. I'll raid these
Throw them
graveyards.
bones.
Right. If you don't have fresh picked bones.
Oh, wait, did you say I'll raid these graveyards?
Yeah.
Okay.
For bones.
Very
He's like,
casually.
I'm just gonna like do some grave digging.
Okay.
Like, oh shit, what is her name? That cooking lady. If you don't have organic, fresh grown bones, store bought is fine.
Are you talking about Martha Stewart?
No.
Are you talking about
The barefoot Contessa.
Oh, okay.
Her with that gay husband.
The barefoot Contessa.
Yes. Love her. Queen. If you can't get your own bones, just go to the store, I guess. Like loser, poor.
Oh my God. I can't even think of her name, but I can see her.
Yeah.
I can see her.
Yeah.
My
love
next
her.
guess was Julia Child.
Oh,
Ree Drummond.
Child.
They're all kind
No.
of in the, it's not Ree Drummond.
Oh my
she's
God.
the country.
Yes.
She's got a lot of good recipes though.
Yes, she does. I'm hungry.
Paula Deen.
No.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to literally Google it because
it's
that's
fine.
pissing me off. No,
Keep
it's not.
going. I'll Google it. You keep going.
Okay. But so, of course, he's like, yeah, let me get all these bones. And then he's like, you know what? This just doesn't have like, this potion's missing something. It's missing a certain freshness.
Ina Garten.
Ah, yes.
Or Ina Garten?
Ina Garten.
Yeah.
I love her.
That's her.
She's so funny.
Now we can move on.
So funny. Can I move on emotionally, though? So they were like, okay, these bones are like fine, but it's kind of like stale. I think that we should move on to live human sacrifices.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So you would think that his girlfriend, Sarah, normal, like young, pretty cheerleader, would be like, could you calm the
Forgot
fuck
about
down?
her, actually.
No,
Okay.
I know, because it got
Yeah.
like real weird and culty real
So
fast.
so was she dating him as all of this, as
Yes.
his business is like
Yes.
building up with the
Yes.
mobsters and stuff? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And she was like, hell yeah.
Okay. So she was
like,
with
I love
it.
that.
She's like, I love
in.
it.
I'm in all the way. And
Yeah.
she's like, not only am I in, but I'm going to be like, you'll be like the priest and I'll be the priestess. It's a
Okay.
love story.
Okay.
Baby, just say yes.
Okay.
That's what she wants.
All
so
right.
she's like, hell yeah, we're going to do that. And when he was like, let's move on to human sacrifices, she's like, okay, sounds sexy.
Yeah. I mean, I could see from her point of view the jump from animal to human sacrifices, especially when you're like talking
Right.
about exotic animals and stuff, is not that far of a leap.
It's really not.
I'm not saying it's great, but
No,
it's not
I
that
agree.
big of a
No,
like,
I totally
ask
agree. I understand
at
what you
that point.
mean.
Yeah.
And it's all of this like very exotic,
yeah.
very like
especially
oh,
if
it's so
she
exciting.
if she is bought into like all of this being real, like
and she absolutely
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yes.
That's not that big of an ask.
right. She's
at that
like,
point.
no, I'll do it.
Yeah.
She's like, you say less.
Done. Yeah. yeah.
I would have done it for free.
Yeah.
Obviously, the cartel is able to round up victims fairly easily. They were like, "Oh, cool. We'll just kill people." This escalated until Constanzo eventually decided that they were going to do a certain ritual, and he was like, "I need a smart brain." It's like that scene in Young Frankenstein. Don't give
Okay,
me the smart
yeah.
brain.
Yep.
So he's like, I need somebody who's smart.
Okay.
So we need to look for like a student. And that is how this is how they connected with American student Mark Kilroy.
Okay.
So he was on vacation in Mexico. And he was a pre-med student.
Okay.
So he was like super, super smart. So he was just like having a great time, like out at the bar, like I'm on vacation. And they were like, you know what's really fun? Look at my like super hot girlfriend, Sarah. And she was like, hey,
Oh my gosh.
what's up? You should
So a
come
little
back
love bombing.
Yes.
Okay.
Flirty fishing. Very
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Very, very spooky. So they took him back. Oh, he was on spring break. I'm sorry. Yeah, he was on spring break. And they were like, yeah, come back to the ranch. We'll just like, have some fajitas, smoke a little dope. It'll be like so fun and normal. But then he got murdered. They killed him and used his brain in their ritual. He had like a big, like giant cauldron, like very Hollywood. And yeah, so he was like, okay, I need that brain. Let's plop it in the cauldron.
Okay.
Sounds great. What eventually ended up happening is that was kind of where it broke down, because until then they were staying sort of in the territory of Mexico and picking off Mexican people. They had killed quite a few people by this time, like around 20.
Okay.
The problem was when they went for this American student who was on spring break and expected to be back. I mean, he's in medical school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So they're like, come back.
Yeah.
Learn about stethoscopes and
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
So then Texas police started kind of putting the pressure on the cartel because that's where he was from.
Okay.
The Mark Kilroy was from Texas.
Okay.
So they started sort of like turning up the heat, being like, you need to tell us who did this because we need that kid back. And they're like, yeah, you're not getting it back.
Yeah.
You get it back like sans brain. But other than that, you're not getting it back.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Super wild. Mexican police were able to pick up some of Constanzo's followers, which included, this was a thing I kind of forgot. Sarah Maria, remember how she was friends with all of those bad boys, the Hernandez family? Mm-hmm. She was able to connect them initially to the cartel. Because they were like, oh, this is this like weird guy, Adolfo. Here,
Okay.
Meet him. And she was like, oh, these are my horrible friends, the Hernandez brothers. Did you guys know you do the same kind of activities? So that was kind of how they all lumped together.
Okay.
So when the police finally raided the area and they were like picking people up, like from their like evil little cult, which included some of the Hernandez brothers, that's how they were able to lead back to her. Because everyone was so afraid of her.
Yeah.
Because she was like this evil dark priestess. That nobody said anything. But finally the Hernandez brothers were like, yeah, it's Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did that. She
Oh
took his brain
God.
out of
Okay.
it and stuff.
Okay.
So they raided the farm. I'll link, there's like a documentary about this that's super, super interesting, but it's gross. It's so gross. These poor agents, like, I feel like they really didn't know what they were in for because they were looking for one guy. And they heard that this was like an organization that like killed people, but they're used to dealing with the cartel. So
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, for sure. So they go to this farm and they're standing in this field and they're talking to one of the brothers there being like, okay, show us where, because he has said at this point, like, Mark is dead. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we need his body. Show us where his body is. And they're just standing in like a cow field. And he's like, right here. We're like, oh, buried? Under here? Okay. That's fine. So they start like digging him up and they're like, this is not Mark. This is somebody else. And he's like, oh yeah, that's somebody else.
Oh fuck. Okay.
They're like, where are all of the other victims? And he's like, we're standing on them right now.
Oh, like everywhere.
Yeah, like all in this cow patty.
In this general area,
Yep.
Gestures towards
just-
the whole ground.
Just stick your shovel in the dirt and start digging.
Oh
They were
my
like,
gosh.
oh, there's like a ton of people. Oh no, because they had no idea. And then when they went into the barn, it is just this like horrific scene. We were talking about how like super Hollywood Adolfo and Sarah thought they were.
Yeah.
Like, so like evil.
Yeah.
So it was like a Hot Topic exploded, but with real blood and guts. They went to the giant cauldron in the middle of the room and they found various items such as a dead black cat
okay.
and Mark's brain. So they were like, oh.
So they found the brain.
They did find the brain. They did find the brain.
Okay.
They found it.
I guess small wins.
They were able to dig up 15 mutilated corpses, many of whom had been like tortured. They'd had body parts removed. So this whole like insane cult was going on and they had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. It turned out that Kilroy, the student, he had figured out what was going on and had tried to escape. And that's when like they killed him. He was killed by one machete chop to the back of the neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super scary. So they were not able to apprehend Adolfo and Sarah at that time because they got the hell out of Dodge.
Sure.
So they went to have this like big standoff.
Okay.
Adolfo ran to...
Dare we say a Mexican standoff? I mean, I hate to... It was right there. It was right there. It was right there.
I loved that. So, yep, you're right. Mexican standoff. Because they went to like an apartment of like an acquaintance and were like, yeah, we'll hide here and it'll be normal. And when the officers approached, they didn't actually know that they were there. They just knew that this was a possible link. So they're like, we'll ask these people if they know where they are. And Costanza's like, they're coming for me, machine gun immediately, and started just like mowing down the cops.
Okay.
Right. So then they had to bring in SWAT and everything like that. So then it turned into like this whole thing. So he died in the shootout, as well as one of his followers. And then they swarmed in and arrested everybody else, which included Sarah.
Okay.
So there were like 14 cult members. There are 2 who are still considered like at large. But the leaders of the organization are all dead or in jail. A total of 14 cult members were charged with a ton of different charges: drug running, obstructing justice,
runs the gamut,
shooting people,
a little bit of this, a little bit of this.
Sarah Aldrete was convicted of multiple murders. I think they ended up sticking her with quite a few of them because she was like the high priestess. It's kind of unclear how much actual like chopping she did.
It sounds like she very much like was going along with it. I don't think she was like planning any of this stuff.
And the request for the human brain came directly from her.
Yeah.
She was like, I need that smart brain.
And I see what you're saying. She was more the brain.
You knew
the brains behind the operation than actual carrying.
And if you watch, like, as an ooky spooky girl myself, if you watch like rituals that are like, Santeria and hoodoo and stuff, the woman priestess is the one who does the sacrificing almost always.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, obviously you were doing something.
Right.
Like if you're going to kill like chickens and pigs, you're going to, just like we said earlier, like why would you not take the next step? Especially if that's exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah.
I need peoples for my cauldron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
So she was convicted of multiple murders and ordered to serve a prison sentence of 60 years.
Okay. Wow.
If anything ever like happens and she's released from prison, because this is in Mexico,
right?
She will immediately be persecuted by America.
Yeah.
For Mark Kilroy's
She'll be
murder.
extradited.
Yes,
to
I couldn't think of the word exactly.
The US,
Yep.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
She is sitting in prison. I'm not sure if she's making like the equivalent of like toilet hooch, but like toilet potions.
Yeah. She's given it up completely as her downfall.
Like, that's the thing is like, is she? Because the cartel in Mexico and
I guess
in
the cartel
prison
could protect her somewhat.
And not a lot is like known about her in prison. Which I'm like, that's very mysterious.
Yeah.
But that is evil and nasty Sarah Maria, the dark priestess of this evil Mexican cult.
Wild.
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to take it back.
Take it back now,
to the
y'all.
1800s.
Ooh, love it.
And this is the one. Do you remember you had said the name of this town a while ago, and I was like, I actually just did a thing from there.
Was it Racine, Wisconsin?
No, it was Bienville, Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about Louise Pete. She was born in Bienville, Louisiana in September 1880 to a wealthy family. Her father was a prominent and wealthy newspaper publisher, and Pete was raised as this sort of like classic Southern belle.
Okay.
Like very, you know what I mean? You know. Yes. But it seems as though being brought up in this very proper and well-mannered household bred a sort of like rejection of that life too.
Rebelling against your parents.
Rebelling to the max.
We all do it.
Because she started to get in trouble like really early on in her childhood. So she attended the best private schools in the area. And by the age of 15 was expelled for stealing and promiscuous behavior.
What? Girl.
In 1903, at the age of 23, Pete married a man named Henry Bosley, who worked as a traveling salesman.
Ooh. I bet her parents didn't like that.
No, they probably hated it. But this gave her the opportunity to sort of travel along with him, like travel around and see other
She's
things.
Like, get me the hell out of here.
Yeah. But apparently she was not super satisfied in her marriage because she started sleeping with a local oilman.
Oh.
Unfortunately, they were discovered by Bosley at some point, and after this discovery, he ended up shooting himself, committing suicide.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Aww.
So, with her first husband dead,
Oopsies.
she had to make some money. So she decided to sell most of Bosley's stuff,
Oh
just
my
like
God.
sold off all his belongings, and
Classy.
then moved to Shreveport, Louisiana,
Okay.
where she started, she worked in sex work until she could save enough money to travel to Boston. Along with getting paid for her services, Pete would steal money and high-worth belongings from her wealthy clientele. So she was like,
Hustling.
oh, for sure. She is this whole story, she's fucking hustling.
I kind of love her so far.
Yeah. According to the Palisaden Post, quote, she specialized there as a hooker who made house calls.
Oh, convenient.
At the homes of wealthy clients, she stole the wife's jewelry and sold most of the pieces to supplement her income. When she was eventually discovered, she hightailed it out of town to Waco, Texas.
Oh my God.
So she leaves Boston, she goes to Waco.
She's like, bye.
Yeah. 'Cause now she has a reputation.
Yup, getting the hell out of Dodge.
Upon arriving, Pete wasted no time finding her next mark in
great.
another oil man named Joe Appel.
She's got a type.
Or Appel. Appel had a reputation all of his own
Oh dear.
and was known for, quote, the diamonds that studded his belt buckle and even the buttons of his clothing.
Oh my God.
He was like, we're in Texas now.
Mr. Flashy.
Mr. Texas.
The higher the hat, the closer to God.
Exactly. Their little love affair wouldn't last long, however, because just a week after he and Pete met, he was discovered shot to death.
Oh no.
With people.
How did that happen?
How?
How
I
could
wonder.
it have happened?
I
Heavens
wonder.
to Betsy.
With people knowing they were in this sort of beginnings of this love affair,
Right.
Pete was immediately arrested, but she managed to convince the grand jury that Appel had been shot in self-defense when he had attempted to rape her.
Oh.
So she was like,
she's like, what else was I supposed to do?
this man was coming after me.
Which,
That's why I
like, fair
shot
enough,
him.
girl.
And this is the early 1900s.
Right.
So that would have been a completely, coming from a woman,
Right.
reasonable
Right.
explanation.
Right.
Following this close brush with the law,
Wow.
Pete relocated to Dallas, where she met and married a hotel clerk named Harry Farrote
Okay.
in 1913. Pete once again saw her opportunity and ended up stealing $20,000 worth of jewels from the safe at St. George Hotel, where her now husband was working. So she married him.
She's just hustling.
And she's like, it's bring your wife to work day.
Oh my
and then she
God.
stole a bunch of shit.
She's like, here, baby, let me poke around your office.
Yeah. So during the investigation of this theft, police cleared Farrote of any involvement and highly suspected Pete of the theft, but didn't have any evidence to connect her to the crime and were unable to make an arrest.
She was like, nah.
She's like, I didn't, though.
I didn't
Look
do
at me. I'm
that.
totally trustworthy.
So cute.
Some claim that Farrote was embarrassed about being accused of the theft. Others say that he had just like finally had it with Pete being a little promiscuous.
Right.
But whatever the reasoning was,
He's like, you give me my wallet back and get out.
he shot himself.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I will say some have also attributed his death to Pete.
I was
but,
going to say, a lot of men around
Yeah.
her seem to shoot themselves.
Yeah,
And then
he
she
was-
just leaves the area.
Well, and some of these were actual suicides. But she was never charged. She was never convicted in his case. There wasn't anything connecting her to that death from their investigation. So it is attributed as a suicide. Yeah. After yet another relationship ending in death, weirdly enough, Pete moved once again, this time to Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
There she met and married Richard Pete.
Oh,
where she
there you
gets her
go.
name. Yep. Who worked as a salesman. And the two had a daughter named Frances Ann in 1916.
Aw.
But the relationship was less than ideal.
Oh, dear.
And the couple were fighting constantly. And the two of them decided to separate finally in 1920.
Okay.
So Pete leaves Denver. She takes her daughter with her. And she goes to like start a new life again. Anytime she needs to start over, she just goes to a new city.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes.
Just packs up her
Very
dancing shoes.
free spirit of her.
Yes.
which is just like gives me so much anxiety. I'm like, I don't know how you could do this all the time.
No, I could never.
Yeah, no, me neither. So she leaves. She goes to Los Angeles.
Okay.
While looking for rental properties to live in, Pete meets a man named Jacob Denton. Now, according to Los Angeles Magazine, quote, Denton was a widower, having lost both his wife and child in the recent influenza epidemic.
Aww.
Louise quickly sized him up as a man who would be susceptible to her southern charm. She wooed him for several weeks, but he refused to marry her.
That cad.
Yeah, and it seems like the loss of his wife and child, like, it wasn't like that long before she arrived there, maybe a couple months. And
he was like, baby, I'm not ready.
Yeah, he's still like mourning big
Understandable.
time. So he was like, I'm not gonna.
She's like, ew, you're not over that?
Yeah, and to be fair, the reality of the relationship between them is pretty unclear. Some people said she was like this live-in girlfriend. Some people said she was a housekeeper.
Okay.
Most people said she was a tenant of his. Like, it was kind of hard to like really gauge.
And I'm sure she was trying to blur the lines as much as she could. Like, oh, I'm a tenant, but I'm also your future bride.
Right. No matter what the case is, what we do know is that Denton had decided to rent his mansion, a 14-room Tudor revival.
Ooh.
He rented it to Pete for $75 a month while he was going to be out of town. So he just wanted somebody to occupy, take care of the property, and he was giving it to her at a really good price.
I'll take that.
Yeah. We also know that Pete moved into the mansion on May 26th, 1920, which was just a couple of days before Denton was scheduled to be out of town.
Okay.
So there was a little overlap there, but he was just getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
Pete does later claim that the two were romantically involved, but like, again, this is like kind of an unclear. And frankly, she was sleeping with a lot of people all the time.
Yep.
So it's possible, and it's possible not. Like,
we don't really know.
It's hard to tell.
That makes sense.
Because the fact that he was like, I'm not going to marry you is like.
Yeah.
But he's a man, so he's probably like, but I will still have sex with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure he wasn't.
Not to generalize, but you know.
I will generalize. I'm sure he wasn't kicking her out of bed.
Yeah. Another fact that we know to be true is that just over a week after Pete moved in, Denton disappeared.
Where could he have gone?
During this time, Pete had a caretaker dump loads of dirt into the basement, saying she was planning to raise mushrooms, which I also find interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, so you would just like dump a load of dirt to grow mushrooms in your basement? Maybe it was more normal dirt. Like,
that's very cottagecore.
It is very cottagecore, but I'm like, do people just do that?
I don't know.
Maybe they do make like, but I've seen them in like containers, but not just like a bed in your basement.
It's like, I'm just going to fill up my basement with dirt.
I guess.
That's how you get the good portobellos.
Yeah. And again, from Los Angeles Magazine, quote, when people came by, Louise said that Jacob had a violent argument with a Spanish-looking woman who chopped off his arm with a sword.
Oh!
Who would buy a story like that? Apparently everyone.
Oh, good.
If pressed, Louise would say that Denton had survived the horrific amputation, but was so embarrassed by his missing limb that he'd gone into hiding.
Oh my God.
If pressed further, Louise said that not only had Denton lost an arm, he'd also lost a leg. She allayed everyone's concerns by telling them that he would come out of hiding once he learned how to use his artificial limbs, end quote. So she was like, here's the thing.
That's so stupid.
He had all his limbs chopped off, and he's very embarrassed about it.
What a dumb story.
This is why you haven't seen him. But it's coming from a 1900s woman.
Why did she say that?
Also, she's growing mushrooms now.
Don't like shut
read
up and eat my
into it. Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's, again, like, it's a very creative, like.
Yeah.
I don't know where you would come up with this to be like, he's embarrassed about.
She's probably doing mushrooms, and she's like,
yeah,
I don't know. This crazy lady came and chopped his arm and leg
It's
off.
wild to me that she's like, he's embarrassed about not having arms and legs.
She
but when he learns,
growing some other stuff.
Maybe. So, all of this trauma did not appear to have an effort on Pete whatsoever, because she was clearly living it up outside of the home.
Right.
She began by forging Denton's signature to gain access to a safe deposit box and withdraw money from his bank account. Officials at the bank noticed that the signatures looked different than normal, and they questioned her about this. Because obviously he was like wealthy, so they knew him at the bank.
Was she
so they were like,
well,
weird.
he has to learn how to write with his left hand now because he has one arm.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. She regaled them with this tale of the amputations, and now she has to help him with his signature because he can't do it himself. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I love her and I want her to have this mansion.
I mean, at least she's committing to the bit.
Yeah,
Like,
she killed all these guys, but you know what? I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on her side.
crazy. She even started calling herself Mrs. Denton.
Oh dear.
And she was like throwing lavish parties at the mansion.
Of course.
Denton also had other actual like rental properties.
Ooh.
And so Pete started going there. She managed to convince the tenants of these properties to be making payments to her, which of course she pocketed.
Right.
She's like, I'm here on his behalf because he can't walk.
Yeah.
Still so wild.
So funny.
Yeah. So when Denton failed to return to public life after a while, I mean, it was like a long while that people were just going
they were
along
like,
with this.
you have to be done with physical therapy by now.
Friends and business associates started getting suspicious. Finally, Denton's attorney contacted police and asked them to go search his mansion. Pete had left on a trip to Denver. She was going to visit her estranged husband.
Okay.
And, they had a daughter together. So, like, she was going out there to do the family thing. When she left, the attorney calls police and he's like, this is your moment.
Right.
Because they're
Clever attorney.
Yeah. I mean,
Because I'm sure she would have just been like, let's just have tea in my parlor.
And
Don't
Denton,
look in my mushroom
yeah,
basement.
right. And Denton had an older daughter. He had like a younger child that died.
Right.
But he had an older daughter that was also at the mansion that would let police in. Because she was like, this woman's kind of fucking weird.
Wow.
So
Probably
police
saved herself from being mulched.
So they go over, they search this now empty house.
Yeah.
They find the dirt in the basement and they start digging and they eventually find Denton's body fully intact, although it appeared that he had been shot in the head.
Oh my God.
No mushrooms.
No, damn it. Liar.
Although I guess it would have been good fertilizer. I wonder if that was the idea.
That's what I was thinking. I was
Yeah.
almost like waiting for them to be like corpse mushrooms.
Yeah, probably not long enough for mushrooms to grow, but
Yeah.
because it was a while, but like,
Right.
So yeah, so he was found shot in the head. The body was found bound with various cords and wrapped in a quilt. I mean, at this point, it was pretty obvious that Pete was the culprit. So they started trying to track her down to bring her in and arrest
She was
her.
like, bye.
Yeah, pretty much. So they of course found her in Denver, where she had actually decided to just start living in Denver again. She's like, I'm not going back there.
It's like it's getting a little hot.
Yeah, and she was living there with her estranged husband and their daughter.
Okay.
And so when they found out, the entire family went back to LA. She was arrested and brought in for questioning about Denton's murder. She continued to maintain her innocence and tell police the stories about the Spanish-looking woman who cut off all of his arms and legs. Pete also tried to allege at one point that the body they found was not, in fact, Denton's body, but it was actually a body double that Denton had killed.
Oh my God. This girl needs to put the books down. She's reading too many pulp novels.
Yeah, right.
Like way too many.
Right. She even tried to get the public on her side by this woman loved the press. She loved the press.
I love her.
So she would tell reporters, quote, I am being crucified upon a cross, but I can say, as did Christ, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Oh
End
my
quote.
God. She is so funny.
This woman.
She's a diva.
I know. She is a diva. She is
love
totally
her.
a diva. But the police were not fooled.
Yeah, they were
at
like,
all.
no, actually.
She was trying to spin these tall tales, and they were like, girl, no.
No.
And she was indicted for first-degree murder. Denton's cause of death was confirmed by an autopsy, and further investigation of the property found the murder weapon, a gun, in a closet where Pete kept all of her belongings. Just like with her stuff, like the designated section of her stuff. Pete's trial was an extremely high profile affair.
Yeah, I bet. Which I bet she loved.
Yeah, and it was covered extensively by the newspapers and tabloids. This is very high yellow journalism time. So like they ate this shit up.
Oh my God.
Following a short trial, Pete was convicted of first-degree murder murder and sentenced to life in prison on February 8th, 1921. Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly enough, just before she had been named a suspect in Denton's murder, Richard Peete had begun divorce proceedings. So they were like estranged, but they weren't divorced.
Right. Okay.
So he had started divorce proceedings, but all of this sort of like stalled out during the trial and convictions as it seemed like he was doing this husband standing by his wife type of, and being very supportive type of thing.
Yeah.
Once the trial was finished, Pete was sent to San Quentin to serve out her sentence, and the divorce moved forward and was made official.
Okay.
Richard Peete got custody of their daughter for obvious reasons.
Yeah, well.
But there was clearly something else going on because by August 1924, he had committed suicide by shooting himself in the head.
Okay.
There is talk of like from prison, Pete like berating him. No. I don't think she put no. This is one that I'm like, pretty sure. Yeah, where she was like, I've never loved you, blah, 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 blah. And he was like in distress. Like this one I'm almost positive was a suicide.
But she probably
there's something that happened between the two of them. Yeah. And this is what I mean. Like some of them are actual suicides and some of them I think lean more murdery.
Understandable.
Yeah. While serving her time, Pete was considered a model prisoner. No doubt relying on her Southern upbringing. Like, let me put on the Southern belle.
Cues. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, thanks to this, after serving 18 years of her sentence, Pete was paroled in 1939 for good behavior.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Even then, you didn't realize that like a convicted felon got out into the public with no plan. So Pete was released into the care of a woman named Margaret Logan.
Okay.
Who gave Pete employment as a housekeeper.
Okay.
So they were like, we're not just going to let you go, especially because she was convicted of first-degree murder.
Right.
This is almost like a halfway house situation, but before they really had those set up.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Upon her release, Pete made a statement to the press saying, quote, I still insist I am innocent. I don't believe it was Jake Denton's body at all that was found buried in the cellar of his home. If it was his, I don't know how it got there or who was responsible. I believe someday Denton will let the world know he is still alive. End quote. So she's like, this is like an Elvis situation.
Yeah,
like he's just in Hawaii.
He's out there.
Yes. From 1939 to 1944.
God, I'm sorry, my stomach just grumbled so loud.
I heard it, but I wasn't gonna call it out.
Well, you probably could hear the house over.
It's fine.
Oh my God.
It's fine.
That was like
I know.
Godzilla.
It's getting close to snack time. From 1939 to 1944, Pete remained in the care of Logan, working and living a relatively quiet life.
Cool.
During this time, Pete got married again to a banker named Lee Borden.
Why would you marry her?
I'm sorry, Lee Borden Judson.
Okay.
But didn't tell him that she was a convicted murderer.
Oh, this old thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at that time she was using a different name.
Probably.
Also.
Oh, I'm sure she was.
Then Margaret Logan goes missing. Weird. Once the house was empty, Pete went back to her old tricks, living in the house, spending Logan's money, forging checks to get more out. The forgeries were finally discovered 6 months after her disappearance, and the bank immediately notified the police. Police then went over to the Logan residence to search the house, where they discovered Logan's decomposed body buried in a shallow grave under an avocado tree in the backyard.
Aw.
They let a murderer out of jail. I don't know what to say.
Right. It's like, what did you expect was going to happen?
Right. Pete once again proclaimed her innocence.
She was like, what?
Yeah, and she denied knowing anything about it.
How could you even accuse me of that?
But almost immediately, the evidence against her was stacking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is from Deranged LA Crimes. Quote, in this case, the most damning piece of evidence was a nickel-plated .32 caliber revolver, rusty and covered with congealed blood. The weapon was found in a dresser drawer in the dead woman's home.
Oh my God.
Revolver was engraved with the initials EBL and had once belonged to Emily B. Latham, Louise's parole officer.
All right.
Latham had employed Louise as a nurse and companion. Unfortunately, Latham wasn't available to be questioned. She was dead. The cops were understandably concerned. Louise's employers had a way of expiring under suspicious circumstances.
Seems that way.
Yeah. However, it was later determined that Latham had died of natural causes.
Okay.
So that one was just a fluke.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Now, upon further examination of the body, it was determined that Logan's cause of death was a gunshot wound, followed by being beaten with the butt of a gun.
Wow.
Just to be sure. Upon further questioning, Pete claimed Judson, her husband at the time, was actually the one to have murdered Logan during a homicidal frenzy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. She was like, I did help him bury the body, but I'm not the one that pulled the trigger.
Right.
Like very Robert Durst defense. I may have dismembered it.
She's like, this owl came in. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so she was like, I didn't pull the trigger, but I did help him bury the body.
Wow. Still illegal.
Yeah, right.
Still not something you're supposed to do.
Both Pete and Judson were arrested.
Good.
And once again, charged with first-degree murder. However, in January 1945, the murder charges against Judson were dropped due to lack of evidence. The day after his release, Judson committed suicide.
Get out of here.
By jumping from the 9th floor of an office building.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Pete's second murder trial began in April 1945. Prosecutors presented a case that said she had murdered Margaret Logan to gain control of her finances, an argument the jury found pretty persuasive because in May 1945, Pete was found guilty and sentenced to death. She did appeal her conviction several times, didn't get anywhere.
Nope.
She was constantly proclaiming her innocence, but like too much death around you, woman,
girl,
dude.
No.
Finally, on April 11th, 1947, Louise Pete was executed by gas chamber at San Quentin, becoming the second woman to be executed in the state of California.
Wow.
Number 2.
That's a good one.
So that is the story of the dastardly woman, Louise Pete.
I love her.
She's like, murder, 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 death, death, murder, death.
She's like, this is
mushrooms,
a nice house.
mushrooms. If you want to learn about mushrooms in the basement, maybe check out this podcast. They might talk about it. Who knows?
They might. You never know.
Hi, I'm Ellen, and I'm scared we exist in the Matrix.
I'm Jaslyn, and I'm bad at ad-libbing.
And you're listening to High Expectations, the promo. For our international listeners, you can appreciate our cute New Zealand accents. For our local listeners, you might bump into us in the street 3 times in the same hour. Our podcast is about pop culture,
Sexuality,
relationships,
interesting hobbies,
banter, and ragging on each other.
You can find us on
Apple Podcasts,
SoundCloud,
Pocket Casts,
Podcast Addict,
or anywhere you might like to find podcasts.
Yay, please subscribe.
Goodbye.
All right, Rachel, that has been our episode.
Yes. That was a fun one.
Final thoughts before we...
I just want to reiterate, I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs.
Support women's wrongs. Our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma. Woo! This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.